It's the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. Imran Khan has been declared the victor of the Pakistan general election held on Thursday.
God willing, I will prove that all my policies will be about elevating the poor. Corruption has destroyed the institutions in Pakistan, and corruption is a deterrent. Because of it, investment doesn't flow into the country.
It is a decisive victory for Imran Khan, the former cricketer and the head of the PTI party. The final results of the number of seats he has in parliament is yet to be determined, as the results are still not finalized, and those results will determine whether he has to form a coalition to govern by majority. Now, Shehbaz Sharif, the president of PMLN, the party of the former president Nawaz Sharif, said that he rejects the results. On to talk about the Pakistan's election with me is Junaid Ahmad. He is the director of the Center for Global Dialogue and professor of Middle Eastern politics at the University of Lahore in Pakistan. He's also the Secretary General of the International Movement for a Just World based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and a visiting fellow at the Berkeley Center for Islamophobia and Ethnic Studies. It's a graduate center. I thank you so much for joining us today, Junaid.
Great to be with you, Sharmini.
Junaid, let me begin with you recapping the results and what we know so far since you're on the ground there.
Well, I think the last I checked, the number of parliamentary seats that Imran Khan's party, PTI, Tehreek-e-Insaf, which means Movement for Justice, had was last was 114. It may have gone up to 120 seats now in parliament. So clearly that's the majority party. He will still have to form a coalition with about 20 more candidates in order to have the majority in parliament. But right now, he has really swept the elections. He's a principal opponent, particularly in the politically influential province of Punjab, the PMLN, controlled by the Sharif brothers, Nawaz Sharif and Shehbaz Sharif, for the past 2 to 3 decades. They've really been routed. And so Imran almost has double the number of seats that they do in the National Assembly now.
That's very significant, Junaid. Now, give us a sense of the history of Imran Khan. Everybody knows him as a cricketer, but does he have political experience to run a country?
Right. I think this is the most important fact. Well, on the one hand, Pakistan's own political institutions and democratization has been hampered at various moments by military intervention and military rule. And so Imran Khan, towards the end of the 1990s, really decided that to move from what he was involved in, a lot of social welfare activities, directly into politics, because that's where he thought that you can actually make a difference in the country. The problem in Pakistan, I was going to say this earlier, why this is incredibly historic and important, is that it is effectively been a duopoly, like in the United States, the Democrats and the Republicans. There it's been the Pakistan People's Party of the Bhutto family, or the PMLN of the Sharif brothers and their family. And so they've had a stranglehold on the political life of Pakistan. And to make a dent in the way that PTI, Imran Khan's party, did, is quite substantial. It's quite substantial. And I think that one of the principal explanations for that is that many youth became politically mobilized towards the end of the last military dictatorship under General Pervez Musharraf. Youth were involved with lawyers, and Imran Khan was very much a part of that in restoring the Chief Justice who was unlawfully removed by the military dictator. And so from that time, this period, this political consciousness has only risen, I think, within the Pakistani people. And I think that they are no longer interested in trying the same old politicians they've had, whether it's Zardari, who was the president, again, very incredibly corrupt 5 years, or Nawaz Sharif, who likes, and Shahbaz Sharif, these guys who like to build big things, but do little for the working class and the poor. So I think this is that Imran Khan is riding on this wave of youth and general political consciousness that hasn't been in Pakistan for a long time.
Now, Junaid, although he has been the anti-corruption crusader, there are allegations of corruption against him as well here, meaning Imran Khan. Tell us what those allegations are about and whether it has any water.
There are corruption allegations against individuals, either some of the politicians who are running on this the PTI, candidate as a PTI candidate, or some of his friends. On him directly, they don't hold much water at all, and I think that is precisely why he has been given the mandate and the chance by the Pakistani population, because on this, over the past 2-3 decades, the guy has been pretty clean and completely devoted himself to politics and in terms of the social welfare activities.
And what about the allegations against him from his former wife, who actually wrote a book about him, and in that she alleges that he is as corrupt? Is this dirty laundry being aired in public prior to election, or is it having any credibility, and is it sticking in terms of Pakistani politics? Obviously not to answer my own question since he has been elected, but at the same time there must be some segments of the population who believe what she has said.
Oh, certainly, and I'm sure many of them are in PMLN or the PPP, the opposition political parties. But I think there's two things. One, it's just speculation. We don't know what she is saying is true or not, and what parts of it are true. And two, in it, she does, and I think many people within his own party acknowledge this as well. Sometimes, he does have a big ego. And I think that's what she was hinting at, rather than that type of other forms of corruption, when she implied that he thinks he's God or something. And third, we know that the book, which was, as you correctly point out, very provocative, had little impact in terms of the election results.
All right, now let's talk about the people around him to govern Pakistan. It's a complicated country, given its strategic value to various external forces, being Saudi Arabia as well as the United States, and the United States funds so much of its military sector, and the military itself holds a great deal of power in Pakistan and wields a lot of power. How is Imran Khan going to maneuver through all of this, and who are his aides that will help him do that?
Right. Well, it's going to be very tough. I think that in some ways, Imran Khan has been positioned in such a way that there are various internal and regional geopolitical issues that he is going to have to forcefully address as the new civilian prime minister, in concert with the all-powerful military establishment, particularly on the issues of foreign policy. Right on the New Year's Day, as your listeners and viewers may remember, Trump issued a tweet saying we're going to cancel all of this aid, financial aid to Pakistan, military aid, because they've treated us like fools, and so on. So the relations have not been good with the U.S. for quite a while. On top of that, the United States has only deepened its relationship with India in many strategic and military and intelligence sharing ways, and not to mention economically. In response, and simultaneously, the Pakistan-Chinese relationship is deepening, and that's where we have the initiative known as CPEC, Chinese-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and so that is also becoming a powerful alliance. So Imran is expected, I mean, the expectations are pretty big to deal with the internal economic issues of massive inequality, gross corruption, holding the high and mighty accountable, implementing, a fair judicial system where the rule of law and due process are respected. All of these things domestically, but equally importantly at the regional level, in Afghanistan, an issue where it seems Trump goes back and forth. Last year he was going to send more troops to manage it. How 15,000 troops are going to solve the problem when 150,000 didn't do it over the past 16 years. We don't know. But now he's saying that they're going to engage in talks with the Taliban. So we really don't know about that. But what we do know is that Imran Khan has been very clear from the beginning, and he's been criticized by many liberals and progressives for this, is that a military solution is not always the best solution to the so-called issues of the militancy and the Taliban, the Northwest. There are a whole host of other social issues in these areas that need to be addressed, but the U.S. and often the Pakistani military have only opted for the military solution.
Junaid, so there is the very substantial relationship between U.S. and Pakistan, but Pakistan is also steering towards China now, especially with the CPAC you were talking about. China is assisting with some of the ports in Pakistan, and the strategic relations are being fostered between Pakistan and China. Give us a sense of how significant this relationship is and what it is going to be doing, or what the significance of it is for geopolitical status of Pakistan in the world.
No, absolutely. I think that one of the mistakes we make is to just see these individual events in isolation from broader trends that are emerging. I think one of the historic turning points in Pakistan's history, I think 50 years from now, maybe we'll recognize, is that in 2015, it refused to send its forces to help the Saudis in their criminal war in Yemen. And if you know anything about the history of the Pakistani military, it's been kind of like a mercenary army protecting all of these Gulf regimes. So that was big. Imran Khan in his speech today spoke about improving relations with Iran. Again, very sensitive, because the Saudis have always felt that Pakistan they can tell Pakistan what to do. So there's a geopolitical angle here in which these countries, Pakistan, Iran, China, Turkey, Russia, has even now opened up to Pakistan under the umbrella of maybe the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which initially, of course, was just meant to deal with issues of terrorism and so on, but now is almost being transformed into a strategic alliance between these countries of the region. And specifically, I was saying about Pakistan and China, that the Chinese-Pakistani relationship, I think it's often deeply misunderstood. You will often hear many people say that this just represents a new form of colonialism in Pakistan and so on. In fact, it's a very mutually dependent relationship the two have. As I was saying earlier, that the Chinese trade is dependent on access to the Strait of Malaccas and the South China Sea. Now, we also know that there are numerous U.S. naval ships there always on high alert in the case of war preparation. So building this port in Gwadar in the Arabian Sea is absolutely pivotal for Chinese trade and access to gas and so on. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. The idea is that it will bring development with costs, but right now the idea is that CPEC and the relationship, the general Chinese thrust of Eurasian integration, of which Pakistan is a huge one, but of Eurasian integration, interconnectivity, more trade, is a good one.
All right, Junaid, I look forward to ongoing conversations with you about the region. I thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Armini.
And thank you for joining us here on the Real News Network.